to a minimum of 3 minutes so we can get everybody a chance to talk. With that in mind, Bob, if you're ready, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, very good. Hello, everyone. This is Bob Turner, W6RHK. And I'm in the orange section of Southern California. That comprises 4 different counties, but it's about square miles and nearly 4 million folks. And there we go. Is my screen being shared? I can't tell.
It's trying to. There it is.
Okay, good deal. How this came about is listening for the past several weeks, people batting around the different requirements for their own groups. I found it interesting that no one was really talking about the task book, or if they did, they just kind of mentioned it in passing. So I thought it would be worthwhile to take a better look at the ARES task book. And so that's what we're going to do this evening. There we go. So we're going to take a look, whoops, a brief overview of the qualifications for membership in ARES, then a brief look at the communicator task book itself, and then we're going to take a closer look at the emergency communications courses, which are mentioned in the task book. So the qualification for ARES, you know, it used to be that all you had to do was have a license and a desire to serve, and you were in ARES. And it was really up to the individual groups and the served agencies to do any training that they required. And so really the result of this is we have requirements that are just really all over the place. And what the task book does is gives everybody a solid foundation. So level 1 is very similar to the way it used to be. This is the introductory level for ARES. It's a non-leadership role. Any training that's conducted is done at the local level, meaning that particular ARES group, and or the served agency, any particular requirements that they may have. It could be formal, informal, it's really up to the locality where that ARES volunteer registers. And level 2, these really is your core group of volunteers. This is your meat and potatoes people. They'll have completed the EC001 course and FEMA courses 1, 2, 7, and 8. Incidentally, I've heard a lot of people say it's ICS 700 or ICS 800. It's not, it's IS, that's independent study. Even for 100, it's IS 100 when you look it up. These FEMA courses are the ones that everybody's been talking about. So I would venture to guess that the vast majority of all our volunteers have completed these 4 courses at least. Your level 3 members, that's the leadership folks. Those are your emergency coordinators, your assistants, your district folks, and of course the section emergency coordinators. To complete level 3, you need, besides the level 2 requirements, you need to complete the EC16 course and these 7 courses from FEMA. This is referred to as the professional development series of courses. So when you're done completing these, you'll get an extra certificate saying that you completed the professional development series, which is kind of cool. You can show all your friends. They'll be very impressed. So those are the 3 levels in a nutshell. So let's take a closer look at the actual task book itself. Each level, level 1, 2, and 3, is broken into 3 groups: education, participation, and your proficiency and skills levels. Level 3, the leadership level, that has an additional category of leadership skills that you have to complete. So this is the matrix for all the different courses. I just put them in numerical order. And notice O is optional. These are your optional courses. R is required. So for level 1, again, your entry-level people, ICS is an optional course because we really don't expect these folks to be responding to an EOC or anything of great meat. These are your introductory entry-level people. So these are all optional. The R are required courses. So level 2, your core group, they will have your 1, 200 ICS courses, your National Incident Management System course, the National Response Framework, and of course, complete the Emergency Communications course 00. Optional is Skywarn. And again, the optional courses, it's really up to the local ARES group, but they want to include those. Tell your volunteers that those are all also required for your group. That's up to the EC. As far as headquarters is concerned, these are all optional. For level 3, in addition to ICS 100 and 200, they put in Introduction to Exercises, the IS 120 course, and then here's your 7 Professional Development Series courses. And you have to complete 16. So for a level 3 person, that's 14 different FEMA courses plus 2 ARRL courses. That's a hefty load of education. The participation matrix for level 1, they have to join ARES. Level 2, net participation. Again, most everybody does this anyway. Nothing earth-shattering there. And then for level 3, participate in a public service event. This could be parade, bicycle race, whatever. Your section emergency test, and service of net control. Pretty basic stuff. Most of us have already done those things. Skills, level 1 is have a tech license. That's all you need. Introductory, tech license, join an ARES group. You're in. Then take any introductory courses. Level 2, you need to know how to program an HT. The gist behind this is not one of those folks that grabs an HT and hooks it up to a computer. You need to be able to program that thing from the keyboard. Right. 13. Here we have a different level. E is encouraged. These are encouraged skills to have, like being able to build a dipole antenna, build a power pole, soldering, and assemble your 24-hour deployment kit, your Go kit. I noticed the Oxcom course mentions the Go kit several times, and here it is in ours as well. Be proficient with ICS forms for leadership, and you have to be swell if you could demonstrate that across band repeat. Again, these are skills that you demonstrate the EC, or for level 3, you can demonstrate that to your section manager to sign off your task book. The additional level, additional requirements for level 3 is the leadership requirements, presenting a training session, hold a leadership position, have a general class license, participate in a PIO activity. This could be assisting in a write-up for a newspaper or being interviewed by newspaper TV, you know, when they come out for bicycle races and parades and that sort of thing. Optionally, you can be an instructor or a mentor. So in summary, the education components, level 1, there really isn't any, formal education that is. Level 2, there's 5 different required courses. This doesn't count the optional ones. These are all the required courses. The educational requirement for level 3 is 14 separate courses. Participation, up to 5 different participation items, 4 skills, and 4 leadership skills to present. Again, I think that's a pretty hefty load for someone in a leadership position. And when you get to leadership, you should be able to do these. Again, I would hope that a lot of us have these skills down pat anyway. So let's take a little bit closer look at the Emergency Communications courses 1 and 16. EC1 is broken into 6 different sections. It covers 28 topics, and there's a list of activities for each separate topic. There's sometimes several activities to perform for each topic. That's pretty hefty. The EC16 course, these are, 11 more topics to learn. Now, if you notice, prerequisites for the coursework. In order to take 001, you have to take 1 and 7. The idea here is you can't just jump right into an ARR course and complete it and think, aha, I've done everything. There's course prerequisites. You won't be able to complete the course without taking 100 and 700. The same with the 16 course. You have to take 200 and 800 and the 7 professional development series. So that's a total of 20 different topics just to get to here, besides all the other requirements. The EC1, 28 topics, 29, 30 different educational topics that you have to complete. That's for level 2. I know that a lot of people poo-poo this stuff. This is a heavy load. Make no doubt about that. That's a heavy load. In summary, ARES provides the foundation of knowledge that community members require for effective radio communications. And we're talking about neighborhood watches, your CERT teams, home ownership associations, and this all ties into FEMA's whole community approach that they promote. And it gives that knowledge base that our public sector agencies require. These are your local cities, counties, and states, because of all the FEMA courses that you're taking. So the idea here is becoming ARES doesn't preclude you from anything else, but being a membership of ARES, completing those levels, that means that you're a more highly sought after volunteer by whatever other volunteer group you join, say the Red Cross. When you show up to Red Cross and you present them with your ARES card, they should know that you are a trained radio communicator just by virtue of being an ARES trained communicator. Now the actual task book, if I can get to it here. This is the actual task book, and this is on the ARRL website. If you haven't seen it before, go there and download it. It's available in Word or PDF. Yes, sir.
You're not sharing the task book. You're still on your slides.
Aw, okay. Hang on. Let's see if I can do
keep
that.
You honest, man.
I appreciate that. Meeting control. Let's see if I can get that back up here. You know, it's one of those things that please move this window away from the shared application. Oh, here we go. Share. There we go. I think it's coming up now. No, I was kind of rooting for Y2K to take care of all this silliness for us, and it didn't happen. I believe it's loading here. No. This is something else. I'm having difficulty, so feel free to go to the ARRL website, search for the ARES to download it, take a look. It's rather complete. You shouldn't have any problems with it at all. And I know that's rather short, but there's really not much to it. You just download the ARES Taskbook, go through it with your people, and they'll pop out the other side, being the trained volunteer that no other organization can really hold a candle to, as far as I'm concerned. It's very intense. So with that, that completes my presentation.
Okay, well, thank you, Bob. Before I go any farther, when we're done here, can you send me a copy of your PowerPoint? I can convert it to a PDF and get it out to everybody.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions? I see some hands popping up. So John, KG7WFQ, take it away.
Thank you. Bob, you mentioned showing your ARES card. I'm not aware of any sort of a card that anyone gets upon completion of any of these things other than the signed off task book. Is there such a thing? That's question one. And question two is, who's authorized to decide variations from this, like optional versus required items? And out here in Washington, Oregon, Northwest area, our emphasis is more on taking the Oregon ACES course in lieu of the EC 001 course. Any comment on that?
I'm not familiar with that course that you mentioned, so I couldn't say if it's comparable or not.
Well, actually, I actually think it's better, but that's another story. The question is, who can say that that's a suitable substitute for signing it off? Any of these requirements.
If it meets the minimum requirements the EC01 course shows, then by all means you're free to use that. And that's up to the local SEC.
So it's the SEC who makes that decision?
Yeah.
Okay, that was my main question.
And the card that I talked about, I meant your ARES ID card.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Does people have ARES ID cards?
No.
You know, they're free.
Out here we have a state workers, emergency worker card that's required for anybody that's going to work anywhere.
Okay. It would be swell if people had ARES cards as well. But that's a different topic, I suppose.
That is something that can be brought up with the SMs and the SEC to start providing. Okay, thank you. Tom, you want to come in here, W3TDH? Tom? W3TDH.
There we go.
There we go.
Couple of questions. One is, any consideration for adding a line between level 2 and current level 3 for those who will participate in ARES MET? People at the SEC would be comfortable sending out of their section to help another section. Now, certainly that's, there's some more skills required there when you're going out of section. So any consideration of adding a column to the task book for that?
I think that's worthwhile exploring, but the ARES MET is actually a separate program. I'm not really privy to get into the details of that because I'm not familiar. I don't do the ARES MET program myself here in my section. So I really can't comment well enough on that.
And the second question is, we have two things. We have a requirement that everybody, including the new people, take 1 and 2 of the independent study, IS 100 and IS 200. And then we go over a separate local unit, and that's to prevent friction with served agencies. We want them to understand clearly what the limits of their role are. That's really important to us, because, you know, if somebody gets on a high horse and tries to tell served agency people that they're doing it wrong, they're deadly to us. You know, nothing goes over worse with an emergency manager than a swelled head coming in and throwing themselves around. And during that process, generally, we can get a pretty good idea of whether this individual can fit themselves to the support role or not. Because if they can't, then I'd kick it upstairs to Jim Montgomery, who's our section EC, and say, I need your advice, Jim. What are we going to do? This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm hearing from this guy. What do you want to do? And then Jim would get back to me with what he advises. Because I'm only a local emergency coordinator. So just for what that's worth. And the other thing on the ID cards, there's been no decision made in the section, but I did receive ID cards when I received my documents from the league. Not a lot of them, but examples. And I have a lapse here. I didn't forward the question to Jim, so he hasn't seen it yet, to my section emergency coordinator. But my question would be, shouldn't we hold off on those cards again until somebody's shown a tendency to participate and a tendency towards reliability and a lack of friction and so forth? Because again, I don't want somebody getting a swelled head because they hold a card and think they're God's gift to emergency communications. I've run into a couple of those people, and I can't tell you how destructive they were in both the places I've been previously to the relationship. I sat down with a city EC and I said, Paul, please remember that this is your sandbox. When these guys act like that, you don't have to call me. You can tell them there's the door.
I'm going to have to cut you short. Let's let Bob answer your question.
So you said that you require your folks to take 100 and 200. Well, that's a requirement for level 2 anyway. And again, that's your core group of people. And those are the people you'd be sending out. You don't really only want to be sending out trained volunteers. And the ID cards, you know, ARES members need some sort of ID. In my section, we're toying with the idea of coming up with a different color for a different level, you know, like bronze, silver, and gold looking cards or something of that nature. So a person can tell right off what level they're at. I hope that addresses your question, Dan.
All right, let's move over to Alan. You got your hand up. You want to take it away? Alan? Well, Alan, either push your space key or unmute yourself. You're unmuted now, so go ahead. All right, Alan, I'll come back to you. Marty, take it away.
All right. Thank you very much. And thanks, Tom, for that. I'm Marty Pittenger. I'm the section manager in Maryland, DC. I have a question for you. I know that many of these courses require retakes. Do you have any guidance on somebody who might have taken the course several years ago or a decade ago when they became an ARES member, and now they're ready to re-engage? They're ready to get more involved. What's the guidelines for having to retake it?
I would suggest at least when a course has been updated, you know, like just recently the NIMS course was updated
Right.
a few months ago, and I think people should be retaking that. So as long as they're retaking the courses, again, if they're responding to incidents or activities, they're probably a system anyway, right? So they should be up on it.
Well, I was thinking that perhaps if you haven't taken the course in the last couple of years, I will say 5 years, you should retake it. There is an excellent reason for doing that, is because the retention after many years of not using it. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to ask everybody to make sure to keep yourself muted until you're up to talk. Tom, I think you in for TAB. Go ahead.
Hey Dan, everybody. This is Tom in North Carolina. I apologize if I posted too much in the chat thing. I never done this before, but I've had a couple of opportunities to review and approve, I suppose. I'm the SEC in North Carolina for the task books, but there was at least in my view, from the people I talked with, they were thinking that this was the equivalent of the national, the Oxcom task book, which was requested by all states, SWICs, and was approved in the 24th of April or something like that, 2019. And there's nothing else. That is the task book. And it doesn't ask whether you're happy with your mama or whether you like your eggs over right. You have to go do something. And that is the bottom line for all this. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be obtrusive about this, but we have to recognize that ARES, if it's going to be accepted at a national level by authorities having jurisdiction, and that is it, federal, state, and county, that's it. If they're going to be accepted by that, then they have to meet the standard. And I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I'm not sorry about it, that's the way it is. So Dan, thank you. Thanks everybody for participating. I enjoyed this. There's a lot of good people here thinking good things and doing good things. And I greatly appreciate the opportunity to participate and to learn. Out.
Okay, Tom, I appreciate you too, getting in there and stumbling through this with the rest of us. John, you want to take it away?
Good evening, Dan. I hope you can hear me. John Wyatt, W6RHK, SEC, Northern New Jersey. In regards to the IDs, I did send a design up to Steve Ewald at headquarters for a lanyard style ID. The little gray cards are not going to do us an awful lot of good in a incident. We need to have a lanyard ID so that the first responders around us can be able to easily see who we are. It would also list the classes that we have taken on the back. It would have a good photo on the front so the person could be easily identified. I did like that idea with the levels with different colors. I think that'd be a great idea, but the ID cards we have now are inadequate. They've been in use since the 70s, and I think we should change that.
And I agree with you, and I really didn't mean to open up a whole can of worms by saying something about the ID cards. I know something that has to be done with the ID cards. What we do with ours is we laminate them and punch a hole on it, and that's our lanyard. Perhaps when we get new leadership at headquarters, they'll come out with a new ID.
Well, sir, I thank you for your time, and this is my first Zoom meeting, so it's going pretty good. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, John. Appreciate that. Hope you'll be on board for some more Zoom meetings here.
You're welcome.
Joe, you want to get in there? Talk to us from Hawaii, Joe.
You must not have very many hands raised. We came in very late. Do you hear me fine, Dan?
I do.
Okay. Bob, just a couple of questions. First of all, I'm unfamiliar with the geography of Orange section. is that a single county or are there multiple counties within Orange section? And I wonder how many, what you would call served agencies that would require your level 3 people to enter in. And I wonder how many members of ARES you have in your section.
Okay.
And how you keep track of them. Do you have an Excel spreadsheet or a database, or how are you doing that?
Okay, the Orange section comprises of Orange County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and Inyo County. It's one of the larger sections in Southern California. I have approximately 400 volunteers throughout the 4 counties. I used to use an online system called, you could find it at www.aresdb.com. That's ARES DB, like database. And that was a free service that I used for my volunteers. And then I'm slowly getting everybody rolled up into ARES Connect to track them. How many served agencies we have? It's like herding cats out here because we're very strong with the hospitals. In Riverside County, we have HOAs and cities. In San Bernardino County, what do we have up there? We have CERT teams throughout San Bernardino County, and then up in Inyo County, they service the actual county, and we drew up an MOU between Inyo County and the Nevada section because they're actually closer, so that they kind of handle things together. Did that answer all your questions?
Yeah, just one more though.
Yeah.
You tweaked my interest in your technical requirements. You had make a dipole, do digital, and operate a crossband repeater. And not all of those attributes are in the ARES Connect database, so I imagine you have another way of connecting. But I'm really, and I'm very positive about, I think those are great things to include in ARES training, by the way. But I wonder how you verify them. And then I'll leave. I'll turn my mic off.
You're doing fine, Joe.
Okay. These are demonstration skills, and that's true. ARES Connect doesn't track those. That would be up to the local EC to know his people. And again, these aren't really my requirements. These are in the task book.
Okay.
And they're optional, by the way.
Marty, I'm going to skip you for now. You just spoke, and give a couple more, then I'll get back to you if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, John, KD7NHC, you want to take it away from Nevada?
Yes, good evening. Referring to the task book, we've taken the liberty for our emergency coordinators to add tasks that are critical or limited to their particular areas. An example, if they have an emergency communications van, be able to set it up, operate the equipment. If they have portable repeaters, to be able to deploy those properly. And the other comment I have is on the ICS classes, keeping current on that. Usually, at least up here in Nevada, the emergency coordinator works very closely with the county managers, the county emergency managers, and they're pretty on top of it. So when the county manager, the emergency manager says we need to check, and anybody that's not up to speed or the current EC classes, we get them motivated and get them caught up. That's one of the requirements for most of the counties, is to have those 4 basic classes and the EC01. That's about all I've got. Thank you very much.
Well, all right. I thank you much. You do have a, sound like some kind of feedback going on there. I don't know what that's about, but we heard everything you said. Bob, do you want to comment, or we go to the next person?
I think, again, the task book is to give everybody the same foundation. If you feel as though your people need more training based on your area, or your served agency, by all means, go forth. Okay.
Okay, Stan, you want to take it away?
Yeah, hi Dan, hi Bob. We're considering the task book optional. I'll make this as a statement, but I'm not necessarily trying to propose this as, you know, the way things should be. I've had kind of a question in my mind why we're doing this as the league when the training is already available in NIMS, and for my money, Oxcom beats anything we have. Having had the courses, instructed the courses, mentored them, I'm not sure. Maybe I'd appreciate your thoughts on it, because I'm just not sure. It's kind of like a note from your mother. Also, we're not using the ID cards here because the Ohio Department of Public Safety has a database with that we load our people into. So again, instead of having our own ID, we have essentially a state police ID that's good for an activation. That's worked out really well. Good, thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome if you have a state ID. Again, the IDs would be for those folks that are just joining ARES, and they're not really associated with any one group, but maybe they're with Red Cross or something. They can say, hey, look at this, I'm ARES trained. The task book isn't really optional. Some of the requirements within the task book are optional. And I've taken a look at the Oxcom task book, and my humble opinion, it doesn't hold the candle to all the courses that's required. Again, there's, I don't know what, 20 different FEMA courses a person has to take in order to get to level 3. Oxcom doesn't have that. They have a lot of skills, and I appreciate that. And the Oxcom course is optional for level 3, and you can definitely make that a requirement of your folks, along with all the other requirements. I think it's really sorely needed as far as the amateur radio operating skills go. Thank you.
Okay, there's no follow-up on that. Marty, you sat there long enough, been patient, take it away.
Oh, let me just, first I'll make a statement and then I'll ask a question. So truly the intent of the training is to provide a level set so that everyone's speaking the same language. When you're working with your VOADs and they are being asked by their served agency or by their agencies, you know, if you do you need communications, what kind do you need, where do you need it? The VOADs may not necessarily be able to talk the lingo as far as ESF2 goes, especially if they're participating in any one of the ESF levels, but more likely the hospitals or the sheltering. So the training gives everyone the information they need to know so that they can be a good communicator, and I don't mean by radio, between your served agency or organization, your community organization, which I hope many of you are involved in. You've heard me say this before, if the EOC doesn't have enough RACES people, they certainly can find them, but what about that housing unit, or what about that nursing home? And then the second part of this is a question for you. I mentioned a moment ago about remedial training. What about it beyond this that you see in the IS series? There's additional training, and they touched on it a moment ago. We hear a lot of these, and then we really don't have the side-by-side comparison matrix that someone has put together, or at least I haven't seen it. So perhaps that would be a good tool for the amateur radio community to know if you're going to be involved in this series or in this particular sense of volunteerism. Maybe perhaps the ARES series isn't something you need to do. Maybe it's the Oxcom series, or maybe it's the ComL. What's your view? I know you commented earlier, you don't know about the others, but I'm going to put you on the spot. If you don't know about the others, then can you make any recommendations to make a good comparison about those?
When I first started putting this presentation together, I took a look at the Oxcom Taskbook, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a comparison between the two. And I couldn't really do that because the Oxcom didn't really have the formal education requirements in it. So I didn't want to say, well, you know, it has all this stuff and Oxcom doesn't have any, because that wouldn't be fair to Oxcom. I know it's a good program, and I personally, I couldn't really make a good comparison. It just wouldn't be fair to either program. ComL and ComTs, I haven't taken a look at their task books.
All right, thank you. I think once we get the EC leadership at the league in place, it would be a valuable tool to have for the emergency management communicators and comm at the field level, especially at the ARES teams and others, so that if someone does walk in the door or finishes their test and they're a technician and they want to know what to do, maybe the qualifying question is, well, what are you interested in doing? If you're willing to help the community, you might want to look at this matrix and see which training path would be best for you. Thank you very much for that. It was very insightful.
Thanks, Marty.
That's a good point. Hopefully, when we get the new ARES leadership, they can sit down. The real problem with this needed to be, so you have wildly different programs. So this just gives you everybody the same base of knowledge. Okay, Dan?
Yeah, before going farther here, let me undo my video for a second. Anyway, you've got some bandwidth problems there. I keep getting messages popping up on you there, just let you know. I don't know what's causing it, but just let you know there is some bandwidth problems there. Somebody might ask you to repeat something or whatever.
Okay.
Let's pick up KJ.
Sunspots.
There you go. KJ7APB. Can you come in there, please?
This is KJ7APV, Becca. I'm presently in Virginia, usually living in Idaho. How is my signal?
Sounds
Good.
great.
Great. My question for Bob and the group is about participating in community events. My experience as one who has almost reached level 2 of the ARES is those 6 or more community events that I participated in were essential in developing confidence and skills that might help out with what the gentleman earlier in tonight's broadcast mentioned about the people who kind of overtalked or, you know, tried to correct people inappropriately. Those kind of events, just serving in the community, can kind of take off those rough edges of that inexperience and show us how to be more concise and brief in our communications. So having given that background, my question is, with the current social health concerns that we're having, I see that a lot of our opportunities have vanished, and an email came from my emergency coordinator, our ARES coordinator today in Idaho, saying we finally have an event. Usually our club out there in north central Idaho has 15, 20 events every year. So this is like the first event that we've been able to do, coming up, 100-mile race or something. So what are your comments on how we can continue to serve the community? What events can we expect to see in the future? Maybe just address the whole issue so that we can continue to get the good experience that we need so we can be good ARES members.
That's a pretty broad question. You know, it's different no matter where you go. Here where I'm at, things are starting to shut back down, and there's actually a city ordinance that you better be wearing a mask when you leave the house. And then in other places, They don't care what you do. So as far as what's happening in your local area, as far as being involved, I don't know, maybe you want to reach out to your public health people. Maybe they could use some assistance at a testing center. Do more nets, more simulated tests. Now, this isn't going to last forever, so just hang in there. That's not much help, I know.
Well, we're all hoping it don't last forever. Okay, Michael, WB2SEF, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure, thanks. And Bob, thanks for putting this presentation together. I want to it's kind of hard. I heard a lot of comments between raising my hand and getting a chance to speak, so I'm queued up with a whole bunch of energy. But I want to just say that we need to all recognize that, and NIMS talks about it, everything starts locally, right? So you have to deal with things that are appropriate for you and your local environment. And a little bit of background on where I'm coming from, and I will tell you that I also don't see a comparison between Oxcom and the ARES program. And I'll tell you the perspective I come from is I'm an all hazards COML, state recognized, and I'm a COML instructor and an Oxcom instructor, and have taught hundreds of people Oxcom. We adopt that. I'm the Oxcom supervisor for the county that surrounds Phoenix metro area. So I'm passionate about getting volunteers engaged and making them useful. But a couple of questions came up in regards to task books. I think the Oxcom task book recognizes and requires you to get multiple perspectives, multiple people signing off on the tasks, and the tasks are activity-based, right? There's do this, do that, show me this, get involved, create a comm plan, work a comm plan, do things that show you and help you understand how you fit in. And so the point of Oxcom isn't to create the leader as much as it is to help you better understand what's going on around you, whether you're at a shelter position or whether in a more close frontline kind of role. So, so it is activity-based and it is nationally recognized. So to me, that's a foundation because that Oxcom capability will go anywhere. The part I also see is if I walked around to my agencies, the VOADs, the emergency management community, I don't know anybody who would recognize an ARES card as being useful, especially at the last minute. You show up, say, I got an ARES card, they're going to point me to the parking lot. So not to poo-poo ARES, I think it's a great way to get people involved and to do things. But one of the things about the task book, the question I have is, and I see this in other position task books, do you have a shelf life for the task book and the IDs, and are they correlated such that you cause a revalidation every 3 years, for example, that it expires and that there's some indication to somebody that having an ARES card or having done a task book once in your life isn't enough to stay current. So there's that whole, I've done it, I got the merit badge, but how long ago was it, right? And is it useful?
You know, Mike, that's a really good point. The task book isn't that old, so it hasn't come up yet. So it probably will. I'm glad you recognize that we can't really make a comparison between the ARES task book and the Oxcom, because Oxcom is so heavily skills, where the ARES task book is more patient. And I know you can't just walk up to somebody and say, hey, look at my ARES card, because of us ARES guys, to make local emergency managers know what this means. Show them the task book, show them the courses, show them the course outline. You may be surprised what kind of feedback you'll get. The Oxcom was made up by, yeah, you're going, yeah, maybe so, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe. I would say that the breadth of folks I've talked to in the emergency management layer don't recognize beyond those things. I mean, and they recognize, and they're hams, right? And particularly it's hard with an EM, a director of emergency management, who's a ham. And he's got his experiences that he brings to the table. It's a lot easier to overcome that if I come in and say, I've done the the FEMA qualified. And you've also got to realize it ties to funding, it ties to compensation, it ties to protection liability, all those other things come into play if you have federally recognized programs that you're part of versus just showing up with, you know, an agency or an association that said I did good. And I'm not, all I'm saying is that that's hard. It's been a hard thing for me to push. And actually years ago, I went to my agencies and I said, what would you like to see? What can we do to be useful to you? And we have this capability. And they said, here. And they sent me down ComL, Oxcom. I've been through RADO, INTD, ITSL training, all those, those courses. That's what they see value in. Now, the Red Cross has a different relationship with their comm unit, and the comm unit guys there may talk to me differently about ARES, but that's a hard sell to take ARES into an agency on it. You know, on its own.
I said the feds are not going to EC001 course. They're not going to do that, or any other private course, really. I mean, because it's not theirs. So why would they?
Well, and I've taken. I'm going through it, right? I can't say no if I haven't seen it, right? So I'm doing those things, and I will tell you that there's parts of the 001 course that scare me as a ComL, that present ICS, I think, not in the manner it was intended. So there's elements in there that are nuggets that I go, oh, really? No, you're missing the point. That's not what that's about. And so we can go into a series of ICS discussion about how it pulls out and rolls out and is useful. But I just see nuggets in there. I think it's well intended. I just see problems. And I think someone who's trained in that as an EM is going to see problems. So that just causes them to pause.
I'm going to have to cut this one short. We're running out of some time here. Appreciate your comments.
Thanks, Dan.
We're learning a lot here. Okay, Dan, take it away in California.
Do I have to? Well, I guess I have to hold the space bar down. So, Bob, that was the most concise explanation of ARES training I've ever heard. And I applaud your ability to put it all together.
Thank you.
I'm a retired Fed with an agency that had emergency management responsibilities, typically thrust upon me as collateral duties. So I was never really a professional emergency manager, but for 34 years, I was involved in it in 3 different states, actually. And nobody cares about ARES training or an ARES ID. You need to know what you're doing in the environment you're in. And that just keeps coming up. It's like these weekly Zoom meetings we have, it's like a bunch of flies around a dead elephant figuring out, okay, where do we start eating it? I don't think we're going to finish the job in that sense because each state is very different than the other states within a state. I'm in California, and things in the San Joaquin Valley section are way different than they are in Orange County. By the way, you serve a demographic that is approximately, I'm going to say 5 times as large as the population of the whole state of Alaska, where I started in this stuff. And it's wildly different from location to location. So it's the trust you build with the locals that you're working with, whether they're federal locals, state locals, or county locals. And the training is all good. I can't argue with any of the recommended training. I had one thing I kind of was shocked about, wondering how many people here could take a Bendix King and actually program a whole bank of channels through the keypad. Because if you're really, okay, I'll stay far away from you then. It used to be just a real PITA, no matter how you cut it. And there always were cloning cables. And, you know, I never understood why that feature was there, actually. And to call that a requirement for ARES, it just kind of rocked me back in my chair. So that's really all I wanted to say is we need to recognize that everything we do as ARES starts with the people down the street and the people downtown. And, you know, we can't impose, it's not, ARES, ARRL ARES trademark can impose anything they want, but what's going to be useful to the people doing the work is what the people at the local EOC need.
Okay, Dan, I thank you much on that. I'm going to make a quick comment before I move on the cards. I see a double-sided sword on those cards. You got volunteers that are working towards something. Those cards help them to work towards that next card and that kind of stuff if it's made of value to them. As far as the agencies go, it won't be of value to them unless it's been made of value. In other words, they understand what it is, and that's going to be different in different locations. Enough said there. I'm taking up too much time. I'm trying to get this shortened up. Dennis, you want to take it away?
Sorry. All right, you put the pressure on me. And Bob, before I forget it, when you see, yeah, Carl, say hi to him for me. I've taught some of his classes. So just to pick up, Dan picked up on some really good things about ARES and the Taskbook. And, you know, the Taskbook, in my opinion, lacks lots of things particular. You know, like program a radio. Well, it doesn't say you have to program a radio that works. You just have to be able to program a radio. You know, it's the details. I can't tell you how many people come out and program a radio in the field at an event, and it's wrong. So, you know, it needs to be a lot more involved. And Bob, Michael mentioned earlier about the position task books. Let me tell you what, you have to have a lot of FEMA classes before you can even consider taking that class. They're required, not, you know, whatever. And there's a comparing the ARES and the Oxcom task book are comparing apples and oranges. And let me tell you what, if somebody walks up and they hand me a completed ARES task book or a completed Oxcom task book, who do you think I'm going to bring into my operation? It's not going to be the ARES guy. Because it's just the way it is. You've got to have people that are trained today. You don't have time for on-the-job training. They've got to be done. I wrote a bunch of notes, and I'm just trying to cut it short because a lot of people covered some of the other stuff. You know, there's one thing that the task book doesn't cover is an ARES person, when they come out to maybe not a public service event, but they come out to an incident, they're no longer an ARES person when they get assigned to tasks by somebody. I skipped over that I am also a state recognized COML. And, you know, when an ARES member comes out, if he would show up, he works for me. He doesn't work for the section emergency coordinator. Oh, by the way, I happen to wear both hats, but he works for me as the emergency management person, not as the ARES person. ARES ID cards, I don't care. You show up with it, it means nothing to me. You're not vetted, and all of the agencies are looking for vetting. They're going to look for background checks. They're going to look for all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, we need to get real with this. The thing that gets missed by all of this is you need to start local. You need to find out what your local EMs want and build from there. Maybe you can use the task book as an extra piece, but don't make it the main thing, and definitely don't lead your members to think that that's going to qualify them to what they do. So now, for full disclosure that I've done all that, well, go ahead, Bob, if you have anything to respond, and then I'll tell you.
Okay. I do not expect anyone to take an ARES ID card and walk into an EOC. I would never expect that. And in my section, if you walk into an EOC, that means you're a racist guy, and I don't care about it anyway.
You should. We're all in this together. We're all in this together.
I get that. And I showed the racist guys the ARES task book, and they was pretty much blown away from it because they don't require that here where I'm at. It's different everywhere. And I lost my train of thought. Go ahead with your final comment.
So, and you're right, because everything is different, but we're all in this together, and it should be based on what the local needs are, whoever the jurisdiction having authority is, what they want. All of these Zoom meetings seem to miss that. And I'm going to tell you, my disclosure is, I happen to be the communications guy for the State Emergency Operations Center. I'm the ESF2 for Arizona. I set the standards. We require for an Oxcom person, they have to have a task book. They have to be certified. They have to be approved by the board, and they have to renew it. You know, it's new into it, but 5 years, they'll all be back, and they have to have all redone everything and proved it, because we want people that can work. The Oxcom task book, I'm sorry, the ARES task book means nothing to me when somebody walks in. If they've got Oxcom's training, that's what I'm looking for. Don't mean to be negative, but I'm just trying to make you guys aware of the reality of really the way it is. Don't let the ARRL just paint you this great picture that ARES is the answer to all. It's a small piece of the whole thing. Thanks.
Okay.
I totally agree with you. It's all about relationships. It really is. And let's not focus that
it's too bad we lost his comment.
The ARES Taskbook replaces any.
Bob, we're having some problems with your audio right now.
Yeah. Is my voice still there?
Yeah, you're there.
Okay. I killed my video, so maybe that'll help.
Yeah, so far so good.
Again, the ARES Taskbook is not in any way, shape, or form to replace any other training that a person needs. It's all about relationships. I wouldn't expect anybody that only does ARES training to say, I am it because I've been ARES trained. And I know that that's not true. And let's not focus that ARES is only to support the government, okay? They support HOAs, they support CERT teams, they support hospitals. They do all the other things that the RACES or Oxcom folks don't do. And those people really need the ARES Taskbook because they don't have anything else. So let's not lose focus on what the ARES Taskbook or what ARES in general is.
Comment from the chat.
Okay, go ahead.
From Wayne in Virginia. The Taskbook concept is majorly important to us. I'm in a small county. The emergency manager doesn't have any training requirements for us. He is just happy we're here to help. So the Taskbook needs to consider that broad spectrum of requirements.
That's awesome.
Yep. And there was one more here. Oh, lost it. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Okay, we'll pick you back up in a moment. Well, we just have one drop off. We must have this question answered. Marty, go ahead and take it.
Looking for the mute button. Sorry, I'm in the car.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm using radio to talk to you guys, right? I'll go back to what I said before about having basic trainings in anything, and I think this helps with especially with deciding who will be involved. And one of the challenges, and I think ARES Connects tries to help do this, although not everybody's using it. I asked years ago when I became a section manager, give me the list of all the ARES members in the section. And the SEC says, well, I don't have that list. So I asked the league, and they said, I don't have that list. And I said, okay, how many people take training? Oh, I don't know. It's accountability. It really is. And having the capability of taking training, whether it's if you're going to be pursuing a career in emergency management, and you've heard from some of them here this evening, and by all means, if the training's available, take it, because that is what your career path, what you have set for your career path. If you're a volunteer, if you're helping with the special events, you're helping with the unexpected disasters, if you're participating with your volunteer organizations that are called upon to help disaster survivors, and I've said this before, that for every disaster, it's actually two parts. It's a physical disaster, and then the second one is the people. And if our goal here is to help those agencies who are helping disaster survivors with some form of radio communications, then I think I've met the need. And you can proudly say whether you're going to be a ComL or ComT, or you're going to be an Oxcom or CERT person, you have shown your tenacity to get some training. Now, for everyone else who doesn't get involved at all and wants to be, then we should point them at that education that's available and let them get through that. and let's level the playing field. I agree with everything that's been said here. You talk to your agencies, you talk to your EM, you say, what do you recognize? And you're off to the races. But the bottom line is the training is good no matter where you're getting it from. And because it's standardized, it helps everyone understand what the requirements are. So I would say for this particular group or any other group, I would point anyone who has an amateur radio license or any license, even a boater that has a commercial radio license, take an emergency communications course so you can acquire those skills. So if you're called upon, thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Bob, you have a comeback, or we'll go to the next person?
I think he's spot on. It's all about what's needed in your area. And if you're not serving in an EOC, it really depends on what you're doing. Right, go ahead.
And if you're not serving, and even if you're not serving at all.
Okay. Dennis, you want to take it away again?
Yeah, sorry, I don't hog it. But I saw something in the comment that I had to just respond to, and that was that Oxcom is only about government like RACES, and that's not true. To take it one step back, remember what I said earlier, everything starts local. Almost, well, and I can only speak for the locales that I'm familiar with, every locale has a COML. Guess what? The COML is the communications unit leader. And he's going to get involved. Some of them get involved in public service because the county support it. So to make the statement that Oxcom is only government is not correct. Just remember, as an ARES member, if you respond and there's a COML, you guys all work for him. You don't work for your section emergency coordinator or your emergency coordinator. They may put them in a leadership role over you, but he ultimately is responsible for all the comm people. So I just want to make that clear, because if you show up to help with that kind of attitude, you won't be there very long. Don't do that. Be a part of the solution. Don't become a part of the problem. And you know, we always need to push that. All the hams need, when they come out, they need to be part of the solution and don't be part of the problem. Thanks.
Yes, very good comments. Yes, very good comments there. Bob, go ahead if you like.
No, I was just agreeing with Dennis. Good comments.
Okay, Jim, W2, KFB. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I'm not arguing with anybody. I'm just saying what's going on in New York. It doesn't work that way. In New York here, we do have RACES. Oxcom's good too, but we don't use Oxcom. They're trying to use it up here, but it's not going through because of politics here. I agree with what everybody's doing. Oxcom's got it's a great plan. Well, we're talking about ARES. ARES works for public service. If we're talking amateur radio altogether, that's a different story. We're not doing that. We're talking about ARES Taskbook here. Okay, we're not talking about the Oxcom Taskbook. We're talking about the ARES Taskbook. Okay, ARES is for public service where you're doing your parades, your local, your club operations. If we're going to get involved deeper into the government end of it, then let's go to the Oxcom. I believe that ARRL will eventually go to Oxcom. I really believe that, because the skill set is much better. There's no question about it. Okay, but what we're dealing with is the plan book that's been made. I don't know what the new plan that you've been working on is. I haven't seen it, but the plan book that we had made gives the new guy an opportunity with the EAC and Elmer's to get some experience in what communications is about. And then you can graduate to Oxcom if that's what your state does. I understand it. Okay, well, I have a RACES group here that's never used. And my whole emergency management's all political. So one year it's here, the next year it isn't, and you got to start all over again. So what happens here is our amateurs, whether they're ARES or RACES, they just turn the hat around depending on the situation. So we try to train them for everything. Another thing, Oxcom's a 3-day course. We can't get Oxcom in New York, only maybe once a year, and then you have to go upstate. You have to provide your own transportation, your own lodging, and all those things, and it's a lot of money. You know, that's not going to happen on a lot of people here. So I'm just saying how it is. what happens in Arizona is not necessarily going to happen in other parts of this country. So that's all I wanted to say. And I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying you know, we should look at what we decided to look at was the ARES task. If we're not going to do that, then, and we want to open it up to other stuff, that's fine too. And I'm all for it, but if that's what we're going to do. But the purpose of the meeting tonight was the ARES task book, and it was brought up very well. Okay, so, and now we're drifting off. That's okay too.
No, Jim, you're very right. You're very right.
I'm done with that statement.
Okay.
But it was all good. It's all good. It's all being done in good intentions. But, you know, I think we drifted a little bit. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, Jim, it almost it was inevitable that we were going to be talking about some of these other things because some people are mixing and matching, doing this and that, and it's part of the conversation tonight. You're right. This is about the ARES task book, but it was also about all of us, the jobs we're trying to do out here and experiences we have. Lee, do you have anything more from the
I
chat?
got one more thing. I would like to know if everybody uses, if they have developed or the county has developed a FOG, okay, a FOG manual. Do people know what a FOG manual is? Okay, like the federal government has. Okay, FOG manual with all the frequencies of operation. You have books like that?
We have that in Idaho on our website. We have an ARES website that has all that available, yes.
Okay, your website does, my people do too. So I was just wondering, that's another good resource that ARES people should get a hold of if they can from their local emergency people, their FOG book.
Okay, Jim. Oh, we gotta
Thank
keep
you.
moving here. Lee, what do you got?
No, go ahead. I think most of it's been asked and answered.
Okay, cool. Michael, go ahead.
Hey guys, yeah. So just a comment, and I know, like I said, everything's different from place to place. In Arizona, here in Maricopa County, in particular, we blend all the volunteer resources who might do communications work for us. And in that sense, when we do public service events, we give those who have been through Oxcom training and are looking for signing off on task books. We run our public service events under ICS. Now, the average ham who's sitting at a rest stop may not notice it, but it's defined that way. We build an IAP, we publish a 205, we do all the things that would get them used to seeing what they might see in a deployment. And we don't rub it in their noses or anything. It's just we do that as a matter of course. So, however, if someone has been through Oxcom training, we list the event as Oxcom qualified, which means if you need a sign off or a task to be completed, we try to give you that opportunity to do things in that format. So to say it's all governmental, not true. Those skills transcend, and we use them in public service, and we give opportunity for people who are trying to accomplish that a chance to do it on the half marathon. So,
all right, thank you. Good words there. Brenton, KM4HRR.
All right, I'll turn my video camera on so y'all can see my ugly mug here. So I just want to mention a couple of examples about a couple of topics we talked about here in Northern Virginia. And there we go. So I sponsored through my main served agency, Fairfax County, Virginia Office of Emergency Management, an Oxcom course in November of last year. And I had enough interest and had to vet so many people to fill a 30-person course. I had enough interest to fill 5 courses. And of course, we couldn't do that because those things cost money. But that effort brought to my attention and made really good relationships with the state SWIC, with people at the Virginia level, not just the county level. And we're having a hard time locally here getting ARES people. I have 87 official ARES members, card-carrying ARES members. And the ARES card doesn't mean anything to anybody around here at the EM level. In my county alone, just to walk in to one of our 2 radio rooms that the county provides us, you have to get fingerprinted, background check, photographed, have an interview, a personal sit-down face-to-face interview. We're doing Zoom interviews now, but face-to-face with the EM. And we see value in the Auxcom extension in addition to the ARES training. So, and we're fighting with that right now, trying to figure out what the right solution is. And the people at the VDEM, or Virginia Department of Emergency Management, are open to whatever works best. And we take, outside of the local trade support and some of the club stuff that we do locally here, we take all of our leads from our emergency management team. And we have a really good relationship, and they spend a lot of money on us, and we train side by side with them. And, it's a happy thing. Building relationships with the people that ran the Auxcom course. We now have relationship building going on with, our National Capital Region comms cache. We have much better, closer relationships with the Marine Corps marathon support that we do. So my personal opinion is, there's questions in the ARES Taskbook about, do you have Auxcom training? So I can't imagine they're actually turning a blind eye to it, but, it's the 21st century and there's other options, and we need to open our eyes as ARES to Auxcom in general. We're pushing for it hard here, and we're getting really good results. We have no intention of leaving the league behind or disassociating with ARES. The hard part's coming up with a new logo. But Bob, thank you for your information about the Taskbook. We're having a little bit of an issue here where I am, getting our 86 members to actually finish a Taskbook, but that's just a volunteer problem, I think, that exists everywhere. We have 12 people of the 86 that show up and do stuff and do the heavy lifting, but get by that.
That's pretty common. It's not like you got better than the 80-20 or the 90-10 rule. So you're doing good there. Britton, KM4HRR, you want to do it?
That's who was just talking.
Okay, sorry about that. I did get your hand down. Okay, Dan in California, you got it again.
Oh, yeah. All I was going to say is California, there's a, the NIFOG is the National Field Operations Guide. California has a CalFOG that covers the whole state. And it's really handy. Problem is CAL FIRE's got their own frequency coordinator, and Cal OAS has their own frequency coordinator. And sometimes you got to know where to go to find the secret codicils to see which frequencies are available for which uses. But other than that, having a state FOG or and bigger, more, well, I guess there aren't many bigger, more populated states in California. But it seems like learning how to use that should be a prerequisite for every ARES member who wants to get involved with emergency management agency participation of any kind. That's all I was going to say. I almost forgot.
Okay, Dan, fine enough. We got no more hands up right now. Lee, you got anything over there off the chat?
No, there was one comment at the very beginning that was wondering what in the sections that do have a strong Taskbook adherence, what are the statistics? Is all leadership finishing their Taskbooks and that kind of thing? So that was the only other comment I saw.
Bob?
Well, I can only speak for my own section, and no, not everybody has completed the task.
I think
to try to get everybody.
Yeah, I think that's going to be true along all the sections. That's a common problem.
Right. So are you looking for compliance in all leadership in your section?
I am. I'm looking for compliance of all members. I mean, if you don't set the bar high, you'll never reach it anyway.
True statement. Okay, Lee, are you done there?
Yep.
Okie dokie. Marty, take it away again.
Does any of this training, and I'm not sure because I haven't looked, with technology moving as quickly as it is, many radio systems are going to a more automated code plug, frequency spectrum allocation capable, not only the equipment, but the capability of doing the code plugging. maybe that's not the right word. So in other words, before you start working a disaster, you're either doing the 205 or somebody's giving you a file to upload. Does any of this training at all address the necessity for knowledge and experience in using code plugs? Thanks.
It's not part of the task book, no. The only mention about programming radios was in level 2, I believe. And that's really for all these people that run out and buy a $25 bow thing and they don't know what the devil to do with the thing. You know, if you need to swap frequencies on the fly, you need to be able to do that. That's really what it's for.
All right, it's for the beginning level. What about the other programs? Is there a requirement for knowledge and experience in using? I mean, I know in some, the gentleman from Arizona, when you considered all your volunteers as your volunteers, are you using amateur frequencies, or are you using state allocated or GMRS frequencies? And is there a code plug requirement? And I don't know about Oxcom and certain. The technology seems to be ahead of us. Is there any requirement to knowledge of actually doing code plugs for radios? Because when you program your BOFONG from your computer, it's pretty much the same thing.
Well, when you're talking code plugs, you're typically talking DMR, and that's
no.
What else would you be using the code for? Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, no, I mean, code plugs, you can use it. Any commercial radio uses a code plug. So if you use commercial radio, so, and I think that question was really aimed at Michael.
Yeah. Oh, no, it wasn't aimed at, no. Whoa. I'm not taking it at anybody.
Oh, no, you were asking about lumping them all together, and he made that comment. And by the way, he's my ASCC, and the DEC for that big county in Arizona.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Let's stop with the jumping in here, because we're starting to go into a regular chat session here. Marty has a question out there about code plugs, and you're right.
It can be a sidebar, Dan. It can be a sidebar to follow up. All I'm asking is, if we want to be current in technology, then all of these training programs need to be current in technology when it comes to radio capability, radio programming. Honestly, programming a BOFANG for a particular repeater is the worst thing in the world to have to do. It just is. And the manufacturer never intended it to be that way. They intended these radios to be channelized. And when you talk about channelized systems, you're talking about just like that, programming them from a laptop. But you can make it a sidebar, Dan. Doesn't have to be answered today. Thank you.
All right. Michael, you got a question there?
Yeah, if I it's being pesky. Come on.
Okay, you're on.
There we go. I think I'm in. So yeah, I just wanted to just give an answer back that the concept of code plugs is interesting. When you show up and there's somebody builds a 205, it'd be interesting. The challenge in ham radio is who knows what radios are showing up to help, and how would you possibly prepare that? And so to that end, here in Maricopa County, I've created what I call the Priority Programming Guide that lists the minimum set of things that we tend to use for public service events. And if you give that out and get people to have that staged in their radio and test them when they show up at public service events, the likelihood of the assignments matching something that's already in a memory in your radio is pretty high. So that's our approach to that. I wouldn't expect to code plug. The only time I would see that is if I got a cache radio set as a COML and I had to make it happen across the entire cache to hand out radios, then I might care about that. But from a ham side, I can't see having anything that's consistent across manufacturers and require any ham to have any particular thing.
Okay.
Great comment. Thank you.
Yeah, Britton, KM4HRR.
Yeah, so I just wanted to chime in. Let me lower my hand here so I don't forget. Regarding the training requirements for radio programming and proficiency, one of the things I do as the EC in my county, just kind of did it myself, something I took away from my day job. I work for General Dynamics, and I'm a technician on a bunch of different communications contracts for several different government agencies. So we'll do a WinLink exercise, like a shelter exercise, and we'll use WinLink and voice nets to support the WinLink work. I'll purposely show up unannounced at one of the shelters and break somebody's system, either software or hardware, and maybe they'll see me, maybe they won't. And then I'll call them on the radio and say, okay, you know, that last message didn't go through. What's going on over there at Shelter B? And, you know, that's my little test to the team. Go figure it out and fix it because you're on your own. And then we'll have a debrief and we'll go over it. And, you know, some people end up hating me, but they get over it when I buy them a coffee and a donut. And, you know, that's, we do that. We do that pretty regularly on a bunch of different levels. And as far as the term code plug, I do understand that it's more used and it probably originated from the commercial radio, but around here in Northern Virginia, the term has really become just commonplace with radio programming software of any kind, of any type. You know, people might like that or might not, but I have adopted the term code plug to just cover radio programming software.
Okay. Okay, good comments, good comments. Lee, unless you got some stuff to add there, we should better try to wrap this up. Lee?
No, nothing new in the chat. Thank you.
All right, thank you much. Bob, how you doing?
Good. Just as a final comment, you know, not everybody, or not, Oxcom is not available to everybody. It's not available here in Southern California. I don't know why our local EM isn't buying into it. When all this COVID stuff is over, I will be traveling to Arizona so I can get the Oxcom training because I definitely want it also. And another thing, we all operate so wildly different. Some sections are the entire state. That I wish California was the same way, but my section is in 2 different FEMA regions and 3 different California mutual aid regions. And there's just no way you can come up with one size fits all, especially when we don't have an Oxcom training that's available. So we have to rely on something. And I know the Taskbook is not perfect, but it's far, far better than what we've ever had before because we had nothing before. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bob. I thought it was a great presentation. For those that felt we got off subject, I'm sorry. Some conversation like this almost has to go off subject because, like was just said, there's so many variables across all these different sections. Okay, unless there's an objection of some type, we've been in this quite a while, and we can wrap it up. Bob, if you can send me that your